Are you thinking about buying a house, but you're a little overwhelmed with the process? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. In this video, I'm going to break down all of the critical steps to buying a house so that you'll know what to expect from start to finish. Let's make this exciting process just a little bit easier. If this is your first time visiting the channel, and if you want to know everything there is about the Houston market and living in Houston, Texas, then subscribe below and tap the bell. That way you'll be among the first to know about the Houston market and living in Houston, Texas. By the way, I'm Michael Hughes. I'm a Texas real estate broker and a Texas real estate attorney of more than 20 years. And along with my wife and business partner, Carol Hughes, we help folks just like you buy and sell Houston's best real estate. Step one in the process is choosing the right real estate agent. And this is a critical step because it can make the difference between you having a really wonderful home buying experience and you having a horror story, kind of like you hear about sometimes. With a good real estate agent at your side, that person will be able to help with your home search, will be able to negotiate on your behalf, will be able to help you through any difficulties or bumps that might come up in the road. Once you've chosen the right real estate professional, the next few steps are all about your finances. Before you jump into house hunting, it's important to have a good understanding of your household financial situation. This is going to help you to identify what we call your financial comfort zone, or in other words, how much house can you actually afford? Now, there are three components to understand when we're talking about finances, and those are savings, income, and debt. For savings, you're going to need to have some savings already saved up and ready to go. And those are going to be for the down payment and for the closing costs. The amount that you'll need to have saved for the down payment can vary anywhere from 3% to 20% of the home cost, depending on a few factors like what loan program you use, your financial situation, credit score, and a few other things. In addition to the down payment, you're also going to need to have some savings ready to go to address the closing costs. Now, even if you are paying cash for the property, you're still going to have closing costs, which are a lot of different fees and charges that have to be paid at the closing. Closing costs vary with each transaction, so it's really difficult to give a concrete number as to how much you'll need to have saved for the closing costs. But a general rule of thumb that you'll hear sometimes is that a buyer should have saved anywhere from 2% to 5% of the loan amount to cover all the closing costs. When we're talking about income, you will want to include every source of income that you want to have considered in the repayment of the loan. Now, there are certain sources of income that do not have to be included, for example, child support payments, and your lender will be able to give you a lot more information about that. When evaluating sources of income, the gold standard is W-2 employment. But if you're an independent contractor or a business owner, or you just don't get paid on a W-2 basis, don't worry. If there's no W-2, what the lender is going to require is the last 2 years of your tax returns with all of the schedules and documents and forms, the whole tax package for the last 2 years. For expenses, the lender is going to want to know about every item of debt that is held by the household, what the terms of the debt are, and how it's being repaid. If you have any questions about any of this, or if you'd like to explore some specific scenarios based on your situation, then get in touch with me and I'm happy to work through that with you. The next step in the process is getting pre-approved for a mortgage by a reputable lender. This step is very important because it helps you to understand exactly how much house you can afford. The lender is going to take a preliminary look at your income, debts, household budget, credit score, other factors, and they are going to determine exactly how much of a loan, what dollar amount of a loan can be supported by your budget and how much of a monthly payment such a loan will require. Armed with that information, you can now focus your property search only on those properties that fit within your financial comfort zone. It's kind of like Goldilocks, not too high, not too low, but right in the middle. The second important thing that having a pre-approval letter does for you is it demonstrates to sellers that you are serious about buying a home. You have already taken steps to start the mortgage approval process. Having a pre-approval letter makes your offer much stronger than another buyer who has not started the process and really can't demonstrate that they're doing anything more than just looking. In fact, many sellers will not even consider an offer from a buyer unless that offer includes a copy of the pre-approval letter. The next step in the process is the fun one, house hunting. And this is where you identify potential homes, you schedule touring appointments for those homes, you go and see them, and you narrow down a list of properties that are the final contenders for you to make a purchase offer. Now, it's not as simple as it seems. And a lot of times people will try to go overboard and see too many homes. Scheduling 10, 15, 20 homes in a day is usually just not workable. After a while, all of these homes will blur together in your mind, and you won't be able to remember which one had the great bathroom, which one had the cool kitchen. It'll all just be a mishmash in your mind. So it's important to work with your real estate agent to narrow down the list to a more manageable, workable size. Now, in an active real estate market, homes will move quickly. So it's important to be flexible and to keep an open mind. It's going to be frustrating at times when the home that you really want to see, or that maybe even you want to put an offer in on, has already gone under contract. Someone beat you to it. That's frustrating, but stay flexible because there are a lot of other homes out there that will work for you. On the other hand, once you find the house that's going to work for you, it's important that you're ready to move quickly. After all, this is an active competitive market and homes will move. So once you find the home that works for you, jump on it and make the offer. As the old real estate saying goes, the person who sees a home and wants to think on it tonight could lose that home to someone who saw it yesterday and is making their offer right now. Once you find the home that's going to work for you and you're ready to make that purchase offer, your real estate agent will work with you to craft the best possible offer based on market conditions, and then they will negotiate on your behalf to protect your interests. In addition to the purchase price, the offer will contain your proposals for various terms and contingencies that go along with the purchase of the house, including termination option, financing contingency, buyer broker compensation, and others. Now, of course, the seller might have other ideas and they may not agree to your initial offer. Don't worry. This is where negotiation comes in. Your real estate agent will negotiate with the seller or the seller's agent to protect your interests and to go back and forth to come up with an arrangement that works for everyone. Once the buyer and the seller come to an agreement, both sides will sign the offer documents, and then those documents become the official purchase contract for the property. Now, as soon as that contract is signed, the buyer is expected to make typically two payments, the earnest money and the termination option fee. The amounts for both of these payments are negotiated and set in the purchase contract. The buyer is expected to make those two payments within 3 business days of signing the contract. The earnest money acts as a good faith deposit and demonstrates the buyer's seriousness in purchasing the home. The termination option is a feature that is unique to Texas real estate contracts. The termination option fee purchases an agreed number of days for the buyer. During that time, the buyer has the right to terminate the contract at any time and for any reason. The termination option period, that number of days, functions as the buyer's inspection contingency in the purchase contract. And during that time period, the buyer needs to schedule their home inspection and receive the results before those number of days expire. So now we are under contract. We've paid the earnest money and the termination option fee. The next step in the process is getting the home inspected by a licensed home inspector. Now, this step is not absolutely mandatory. You can do without a home inspection, but I always recommend to buyers that it is critically important that they obtain a home inspection. After all, this is really the buyer's only way to know the condition of the property that they just agreed to buy. In a property inspection, the state licensed home inspector will examine the property in detail and will provide a report explaining any deficiencies based on a statewide standard. If any serious deficiencies are noted in the report, then you and your real estate agent will have the opportunity to negotiate with the seller and the listing agent on how to remedy or repair those deficiencies. If the buyer and the seller cannot come to an agreement on how to address the deficiencies, and if the buyer's termination option period has not yet expired, then the buyer will have the right to terminate the contract and receive back their earnest money. If there are no serious deficiencies noted in the inspection report, or if the buyer and the seller are able to successfully negotiate how to address any deficiencies, then the next critical step in the process is the appraisal. Now, an appraiser is a state licensed professional who is empowered to give an exact monetary value for the property. In most cases, the purchase contract has a provision that says the property must appraise, or it must be worth as much or more than the buyer has agreed to pay in the purchase contract. If the home does not appraise, or if it is found to be worth less than what the buyer has agreed to pay, then the parties can either renegotiate the purchase terms, or at that point, the buyer does in most cases have the right to terminate the contract and receive back their earnest money. Now, there are some alternative circumstances and some exceptions that can apply here. So it's important for you to stay in close contact and to work with your real estate agent. Now, while the buyer is busy focusing on the inspection and the appraisal of the property, there is a lot of activity going on behind the scenes that you as the buyer may not even be aware of. The title company is going to be performing a title search on the property. They want to make sure that the seller has a clean title that will convey to the buyer without any troubles at the closing. If there's an HOA, the title company is going to be contacting the HOA to make sure that the seller is current in all of their HOA obligations, and also to arrange for the payment of HOA transfer fees on behalf of whoever has agreed to pay for it in the purchase contract. And in addition, either the buyer or the title company will be arranging for a survey of the property if that is required under the terms of the purchase contract. During this time, the buyer will have a few important choices to make. For instance, the buyer will be asked which home insurance carrier they would like to utilize to provide a homeowner's insurance policy on the property. Once the buyer makes that choice, the title company then will contact the insurance company and arrange for coverage on the property to begin as of the closing date, and the escrow officer will handle the payment of the premium for that insurance policy. If the property sits within a flood zone, then the lender will require the buyer to carry flood insurance. But even if it is not required, I always recommend to buyers that they go ahead and purchase this critically important coverage against flooding damages. As the closing date approaches, your real estate agent will remind you to make arrangements to switch all of the utilities for the house over to your name effective as of the closing date. And this will include things, of course, like electricity, natural gas, water, sewer, but also cable, internet, telephone, or security services, any kind of service that is applicable to the house. Immediately before the closing, you and your real estate agent will go back to the house one last time and perform a final walkthrough. Now, the purpose of the walkthrough is to make sure that the home is in the same condition as it was when you agreed to purchase it, and that nothing has been removed that shouldn't have been, and nothing has been damaged since you agreed to purchase the home. If there have been any repairs agreed to in the purchase contract, this will be the buyer's last opportunity to make sure that those repairs have been done. Also, just before the closing, you and your real estate agent will review the closing disclosure. The closing disclosure is a document that details the entire transaction from a financial point of view, and it contains entries for every credit and expenditure that has taken place with respect to this home purchase. Another thing that the closing disclosure does is it tells you, as the buyer, exactly how much money you're going to need to bring to the closing to cover the down payment and the closing costs. One thing you'll want to remember, of course, don't bring cash. Make sure that you bring either a cashier's check, or you can make arrangements with the escrow officer for an electronic transfer of the funds. The next step in the process is my personal favorite, and that is the closing. Everything is finally done. All the paperwork's ready, and we are ready to sign everything, get everything wrapped up, and for you to buy the house. At the closing, you are going to sign an unbelievable amount of paper. There are going to be loan documents, purchase documents, title documents, miscellaneous documents, even a few documents. We're really not sure what they're even for. Just go ahead and sign them. Just kidding. We know what they're all for. But it's still a lot of paper. The funding for mortgage loans nowadays happens electronically. So once all the paperwork is signed, in most cases, it's just a short wait for the loans to get funded. And then I, as the agent, can hand you the keys to your brand new home. And we can pop champagne if you're into that. Otherwise, we can celebrate and take a bunch of pictures because you are now a new homeowner. And there you have it, the short version of how to buy a house in Texas. Now, we've made some generalizations here, and what we've talked about today doesn't cover every possible scenario. And by the way, if you would like your very own copy of the home buying roadmap that you see behind me, there is a link for it in the description of this video below. So just click on the link and download your own copy. Of course, if you have any questions, or if you'd like some clarification about any one of these steps, I'm happy to discuss that with you at any time. Whether you're looking to make your next move next week, next month, or even next year, Carol and I would love to help make your next home buying process smooth and worry-free. So click on the link below to set up a free one-on-one Zoom consultation. Or, of course, you can always give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. We are never too busy to hear from you, and we are looking forward to helping you buy or sell Houston's best real estate.